today I'm feeling a little bit emotional. It's a little surreal to me to be in front of cameras. For most of my life I had to hide from cameras. I had to live in the shadows. It's hard for me to talk about my mother to people that aren't direct family. That I wasn't supposed to talk about family and the family business to other people. And my mother always taught me that we're far from weak, that we're Blancos, and that we fear nobody. I started to understand that my mother wasn't a regular person. My mother was something different. A lot of people say my mother was an evil person, but every story has two sides. And Griselda Blanco's story had two sides. And that's why I choose to tell this story. My mother was Griselda Blanco de Trujillo. She was a very elegant lady, but when she went from elegant to rude, it was like a light switch. My father's name is Rubén Darío Sepúlveda. He was also known as El Artista, the actor, they would call him, because of his flamboyant lifestyle. He acted like a celebrity. But you knew that my mother was the top of the totem pole. He knew his limits. And when she said something, he would have to bow down. I was born nearly 10 years after my other brother. She wasn't gonna have more kids. And then I came along. I knew that we were different, and I knew that she was the boss. I know we lived in a mansion. I know we had cars, but I didn't really understand what my mother did for a living. They used to call her the chameleon because she knew how to put on costumes.
What do you think Mommy should be wearing tonight, baby?
In my mother's master bedrooms, she'd always have, the little round heads where she would place her wigs, and she would have multiple colored wigs, different style wigs. And she would dress up before going out with my father or going out for a business meeting with somebody. And I'd be like, what's up with all these wigs, Mommy?
Oh, baby, this one is pretty. What did you say?
She was camouflaging herself. And then she started to tell me, okay, if anybody ever asks you our names, my name is Beatriz and your father's name is Tony. And I go, no, it's not. You're Griselda and he's Dario. They're like, no, my name is Beatriz and his name is Tony. What are our names? And she constantly drilled me.
And if people ask, what are our names? Do you remember?
Beatriz and Tony.
Good job.
And I got it engraved in my head. So much that my neighbors would ask my father's name and I'd be like, it's Tony and Beatriz. I thought my mother was some type of celebrity. I looked at her as an actress. I didn't know. I thought my mom was just having a good time wearing these different color wigs and different clothes and her different glasses. One thing my mother always told me is that I shouldn't talk about everything I saw in the household because there's certain things that was only for us to talk about. For example, I remember one time she had this huge walk-in closet. I used to love playing in this closet. And I remember one day going into the closet and She had blocks of money on the shelf above her furs.
What did I tell you about snooping around?
And I questioned her repeatedly on it. Why did she always have so much money in the house?
Do you want to have a little bit of fun while Mommy's working? All right, let's go.
She would bring it down and she would be like, okay, want to play with the money? Let's play with the money. She'd be stacking the money with me and would train me in what I can discuss and what I couldn't discuss with the regular people outside my house. When people ask me about why you guys so rich, why do you have Mercedes limos, my mother always taught me that I have all that money in the closet with anybody. I knew that was her and my secret. But I didn't really understand that other kids, their parents didn't have blocks of money in their closet. I lived a very solitary life. I don't really have memories of me playing with too many kids. I wasn't allowed to go to school. I was being home taught by a private tutor. There was a point in time that I didn't even leave the house. I'd see kids in the neighborhood riding their bikes, and I'd tell my mom, can I go outside and play with the kids? And my mother would tell me, not today, tomorrow. I'm like, that's what you told me yesterday. And then she told me again, not today. And I would ask her why. And she would tell me that I had to understand that it wasn't quite safe for me to be in the neighborhood. And I'd be stuck in my house for days. To have my brothers around, all three of my brothers, to me that was like the best thing in my life. My siblings were my best friends. But most of the time I'd find myself wandering around the house. So it was one of those times that she just happened to leave her little purse on the table in the dining room. And I ran in there and I'm like, nosy little kid, let me see what she has in this purse. And I remember opening her purse and seeing the gun. She always had this little chrome 38 in there. I wondered why she had a weapon. And I remember her coming into the room and seeing me look through the purse.
What are you doing?
And she screamed at me and she told me, don't do that again.
You don't touch that ever.
She starts telling me the reason why I have to have this gun is because you know the big ring that mommy has? The big diamond ring. A lot of people want to take that ring from me. So I have to carry this in order to, protect us from the thieves.
But just in case, Mommy keeps that in her purse. You understand?
I understood that she had things that were worth a lot of money. So it made sense to me completely. We're so filthy rich that people want to hurt us.
Get Michael out of here.
Started hearing the screams.
Oh, no! Stop!
I started realizing when I was younger that we were a different type of family. There was always an entourage of men. And I started to see more weapons. To me, it was, they're protecting us because we're so rich. But when you have people living in your house at a 24-hour basis, they're no longer bodyguards. They're like my family. They'd be close to us while we ate. So then it was a real big deal in my house.
How is everyone doing?
And I remember one day, here comes a certain individual that wasn't accustomed to sitting with the family. So he comes armed to the table. And my mother flipped out.
What did I tell you?
My mother starts to scream at him, and he's in a state of shock. Everybody's silent, just looking at him like, oh, you messed up now.
You do not bring a gun to this table.
My mother didn't have a midpoint. If she went into a rage, she went into a rage. Her eyes would turn red. She would shake. And if she didn't physically strike the person, she'd get to the point that she was about to.
Sorry, I didn't know.
And she said, don't you ever do that freaking again. Put that gun up right now. We're gonna eat dinner.
Right now.
He had to go back and put his weapon up. And he never did that again, I'll tell you that much. I thought it was normal for men to walk around armed. I thought everybody had security. This is a crazy picture. Was taken to Walt Disney World. And you see the four men in the back. One's my uncle. And all the others are bodyguards. Let me ask you, do you think that's right? When you can't even go on vacation without being surrounded by evil? But this is normal. Not only is it normal, but I remember having a great time. I became attached to a lot of the bodyguards that were around us a lot because remember, I was a kid. I had no friends. So when one would disappear, my mother always kept one certain individual around me, always. It was like a big brother. I saw him when I woke up. I saw him when I went to sleep. I saw him all day. I loved the guy. He was my best friend. And then one day he wasn't there. So I get up and I'm like, where's Mario?
Mario? Mario?
Mario usually comes, shakes me out of bed to go eat breakfast.
Mario?
And nobody answers. And then I hear my mom's voice.
Michael, honey.
Where's Mario?
Mario had to leave, you know? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, Mario went to college. When people disappear, they go to college. She would tell me, Michael, sometimes they have to go back to school to learn better. And I really didn't understand, what do you mean? But he was around us for a long time. How could he just leave? And then I was like, why is there so many people in our family in college?
You should be happy for him.
My mother had this thing that you would ask her once or twice, and after that, I kind of understood that she didn't want to share. And I had to respect that because I didn't want to anger her. It happened a lot of times with other family members. They would disappear. And I guess you're supposed to get used to something like that, but that's not normal. In a normal family, people just don't disappear forever. Little did I know what really happened to them. We were on a family vacation and we were staying at a hotel at the beach. And some of my mom's bodyguards bring in this individual. You could tell that he was forced to be there. And the man sees my mother and he turns pale. He turns white. And then he looks at her and tells her, you fat son of a, screaming at my mother, I'm gonna see you in hell.
You go to hell.
And my mother tells him, yeah, I'll see you in hell. But when you get there, you tell him Blanco sent you.
Get Michael out of here right now.
No. No. No.
And I was escorted to the room on the side, and then a couple minutes later is when I started hearing the screams.
No. No.
I had never heard a man scream like that. I had never heard anything scream like that before in my life. After a while, my mother walks into the room.
Are you okay, Michael?
And I pretend you never heard that before.
Good boy.
But I understood that that man wasn't screaming anymore. Things kind of changed right then and there. I started to understand that my mother wasn't a regular person. My mother was something different. I never feared her, but I understood that she was to be feared. guy was one of my father's employees. I see one of the men just throwing the gasoline on him, and then I could see the anger in my father's eyes. My father was having a get-together. My father has music playing, there's people dancing, and I was supposed to be upstairs, but I ran downstairs for a little bit to see what all the commotion was. I see a beautiful woman dressed in all red, and she's incredible. I was taught by my brothers to be a man, and it's okay to call a woman beautiful. Call her una mamacita. It's okay to squeeze a beautiful woman. This is what I was taught, to be a man, so I didn't understand that I was about to do something wrong. I somehow got up under her dress and I grabbed the lady. And it was like a scene from a movie. The music stopped playing.
What do you think you're doing? You think you can just touch a woman like that? Is that it?
The lady's husband was right there. And he said, you know, this little son of a bitch. And he snatches me. My father heard him call me a little son of a bitch and snatch me in a violent fashion. So all I remember was my father telling him, what did you say? What did you just call my son?
You disrespected my son.
It enraged my father. You know, I could see the anger in my father's eyes.
You come in my house. You disrespect my family. Boys, get him out of here.
My father tells one of the bodyguards, take him upstairs now. As I'm going up the stairs, I see them dragging him out. As one of the men is putting me in my room, I hear the gunshots. I ran downstairs. I see one of the men just throwing the gasoline on him. And then my father screams at them and tells them, what the hell? You know, like, hey, take the kid back upstairs. Lighting. But I felt the heat from the fire. Even though I was upstairs in my room, I knew that somehow was my fault. You know, I grabbed his wife where I shouldn't have grabbed her. It still bothers me to this day. It's something I'll never forget. The next day, when I woke up, I saw the remains. When I told my mother what had happened, she wasn't surprised. She said it was a bad thing, that I shouldn't have seen it. But that was my father, that I would have to understand that if that happened, it's because it had to be done. I remember one night waking up to my mother and my father arguing.
Who the hell do you think you are? Grizel, just stop this, please.
I come out the room to see them screaming at each other. My mother in tears, and I heard her crying and screaming at my father. What a scumbag he was, and how could he do that to her? And it turns out my father was cheating on my mother with an American lady. She was a tall, beautiful, blonde woman. So I guess my mother took it very personally.
Get out of my house
It was
right
just a
now!
one-time thing.
I heard my mother tell him, you son of a bitch, don't worry, I'm gonna kill that gringa bitch for you. She was getting madder and madder. And then I would see my father argue back,
What do you want?
which wasn't a good thing because my mother was the boss. Right then and there, I understood that their marriage was over. I understood that. That's it. My father didn't have a place in my mother's household anymore. I never saw my father with that lady again. And I found that weird, that this lady that I saw with my father before more than once just completely disappeared. My father left, and then I saw my father a couple more times on visiting day. My father would come pick me up and take me out and then bring me back. And one day, my father came to pick me up. Told my mom we were gonna go to the mall. And instead of going to the mall, we headed straight to the airport and we boarded a plane. And next thing I know, I was in Colombia. I started asking my father questions. And I'm like, Papi, where's mommy? What are we doing here? But you're gonna spend a couple days with me. I didn't understand that he had basically kidnapped me. My father understands what's about to happen. So, my father starts to run. And all I hear is that cannon. Boom, 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 boom. No! My father had taken me out the country without my mother's permission. He had kidnapped me, basically. And as we're heading towards the town, these police officers, they tell us to pull over. One of the police officers that was sitting on the motorcycle, he gets off and he pushes my father and he asks him for his documents. And my father's like talking to the man.
Is there anything that we can do?
And the head cop tells my dad to, come, get out the car. I want to talk to you.
I'll be right back.
My dad gets out the car. And they're like, all right, don't make any moves. Then my father understands what's about to happen. So my father starts to run. He takes off. And I see a short man with an Uzi. And I hear it and I see it. I look the other way, and to this day I remember what the other person was shooting us with. He was shooting us with a Luger, and he's just sitting there, bam, bam, bam. And I look at my father, and he's just covered in holes, and he's just bleeding. I shake him, and he doesn't move. My father was shot 27 times. That was the worst day of my life. My mother sent somebody to pick me up, and I was back in Miami after a couple days or a week.
Mommy. Oh, Michael. Oh, my boy. I'm so happy that you're home.
I was so happy to be back in my mother's hands, and she just held me. I cried for a little bit. People started. I asked my mother who was responsible for the killing of my father, and she would tell me that it was our enemies. She told me, you saw what happened to Papi. The same people that hurt my father would probably try to hurt me again, do the same thing to her. That we had to protect each other, that the only thing that mattered to her was me.
Everything is going to be fine. Do you trust me?
Yes, I trust you, Mommy.
My mother became so protective of me that she was always with me everywhere we went. I couldn't even sleep in my own room. I had to sleep next to my mom every night. And I had to be with her everywhere. I got very attached to her.
Don't you worry. Mommy will keep you safe. Are you all packed?
Yeah.
My mother told me that we were in a state of emergency, that we couldn't be in one house too long because the bad man that killed my father might try to come kill us. We always had suitcases filled with, a couple change of clothes, her personal effects, and always with money. My mom always had a suitcase full of money. If it was time to go, she would just tell me, Michael, grab your little backpack, it's time to go. She also taught me about the guys with the 3 letters on their jackets.
What do you do if these men get to the door?
Don't answer.
Good boy.
That that if I would ever see these men with jackets and these letters on their jackets, that they might be there to take her away or do bad things to me. She never told me, FBI or DEA. I learned that the day they came to take my mother away. I see these gentlemen get out the car. And what are they? They're gentlemen with blue jackets and letters on their back and on their front. And my mother had already warned me about these gentlemen. I'm thinking they're here to kidnap me, or they're here to hurt me like they hurt us in Colombia. The living room is flooded with people. And they're just tearing up the walls, the couches. There was commotion that I didn't know what was happening. There's hundreds of people here in my house. What are they doing in my house? They're ransacking my kitchen. They were searching for stuff I didn't know at the time. And she was crying.
It's my gun! I have told you before, it isn't mine! What do you need?
Before that day, I can't recall seeing my mother cry. So I run in to hug my mother and I tell her, "Why are you crying?" And she's like, "I don't know what these men are here for, Michael."
Everything is going to be fine. I promise you.
I remember they had her 38, and she kept on telling me, "These men say that's my gun, but that's not my gun, Michael. I don't know whose gun that is."
I promise you, I'm gonna fight for this.
She kept on trying to tell me, "Don't worry. These gentlemen are mistaken. They think I'm somebody else." This was the day that my mother was taken away from me. In many ways, this day was worse than the day I saw my father assassinated. Because when my father died, I still had my mother. And I look at her eyes and I'm thinking, what are you thinking right now? Did she know that she was going to spend the next 20-some years in jail, in prison? That stare is a stare of a woman that is still determined to win, even though she's lost it all right there. And we lost it all right there. In that moment, the jig was up. It was over. One of my cousins starts to tell me,
"Do you really not know who your mother is?"
What do you mean?
he goes, your mother's la madrina. Your mother is my father's boss, and my mother's boss, and everybody's boss. And I go, boss of what?
Michael, open your eyes.
And that's what he tells me. He goes, your mother is the queen of cocaine.
Do you not really know who your mother is?
I know she's a very important person.
My older cousin is babysitting me, and he told me, your mother is the queen of cocaine.
She's in charge of all this.
Your mother's the Black Widow. She's the boss of bosses. It was like in the movies when your whole life flashes in front of your face and, all the tape rewinds and then it fast forward. Everything started to make sense. Those guys with the guns, my bodyguards, they were really bodyguards and hitmen. The different houses were really safe houses. The violent situations, it was just like in The Godfather. But it was in the Blanco family. I realized that I was just like Michael Corleone in the movie. Except there was no Godfather in my movie. There was a godmother, and it was my mother. Originally, my mother was accused of multiple murders and homicides and for drug trafficking. The violence that she created touched a lot of people's households. They said my mother was suspected of ordering over 200 assassinations. She destroyed families. When I found out the truth, it hurt me to know that she destroyed other people's life and family. Because I didn't know that, Griselda. I know my mommy. Believe it or not, I love this picture. It was a hard time in my life, but visiting day was the happiest day of the week for me in my teenage years. During my mother's incarceration, we'd constantly tell each other that, she'd be home soon, that she'd be free, And then 1 year would turn into two to seven to 20-something years. She was supposed to be released in 1993. And in 1993, the state of Florida accused her of 2 more murders. She was facing the electric chair with one of those murders. And she was able to take a plea. One day, after a couple whiskeys, my brother decided to bring it upon himself and tell me the truth after harassing him.
Come on. Tell me what happened.
You're sure cool?
Our mom had your dad killed for kidnapping you. She wasn't gonna let anybody steal her baby boy. When you know something, but you wish you never knew that? I knew. And to this day, I kind of want to still lie to myself and say it wasn't so. Because it hurts. I went to visit my mother in the correctional facility where she was. And, I just wanted to hear the truth. I just need to know. I told her, Mom, really, who killed my father? Was it you? And she told me, no, Papi, you know who it was. It was our enemies. She never admitted it to me. Not once. But when I looked into her eyes, I knew. I saw a scared lady that didn't want to tell her child the truth. In a way, I'm glad that my mother never answered that question truthfully. If she would have told me the truth, I think it might have set a seed of hatred towards her. So I didn't want to touch the subject again. I didn't want to hear it come out her mouth. This was a picture that was taken before she was released. I see a person that is confused because she doesn't know what tomorrow is going to bring. She doesn't know what the real world has in store for her. Upon her release, my mother was deported to Colombia. I maintained a constant relationship with my mother. We would speak and Skype every day, 3, 4, 5 times a day. But I was always in fear that her being sent back to her native country was in a way signing her death warrant. And that's what happened. I got a phone call from a family friend, and he told me she was at a local carniceria, which is a butcher shop. 2 individuals pulled up on a motorcycle. One got out, shot her twice in the head. And I broke down and I was in a state of shock. I've been expecting that phone call my whole life, but I still didn't want to believe it. A minister once told me that you live by in my mother's story. I dabbled in the family business. It's public record. My arrest and things, I had to learn the hard way. I had to make a choice to go 100% legal. I had to make a choice to not continue that generational curse, because that's exactly what it is. It's a generational curse. Because my brothers carried on, took over the family business. This cocaine lifestyle has destroyed our family. Over 22 members of my family are dead. My father, my brothers, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, our best friends. I'm one of the last males in my family. I'm the last Blanco brother. It's not worth it. Not all the money in the world's gonna bring back my family. Yeah, I forgive her. I forgive my mother for everything. Even for that. Even for the death of my father, I forgive her. Because no matter what, my mother was somebody that loved me. Somebody that loved me more than anybody. My mother once told me that we all have a choice to make. They chose to live that life. I choose to break all generational curses. In Jesus' name, amen.